bubbles. In the world of professional sports, that's kind of all it comes down to. No, not the kind that West Ham fans blow every Saturday, but instead the pockets of opportunity. In the NBA, the three-point bubble was inflated by the Warriors and has now fundamentally changed the game. Kids no longer want to dunk and posterize, they want to be like Steph Curry. The same can be said for the NFL. Chip Kelly was one of the first pioneers of the up-tempo offense at the professional level, and it didn't take long for the rest of the league to play catch-up. Dual threat quarterbacks suddenly became favourable, screen passes integral, dual threat running backs indispensable. On defense, base formations are rapidly becoming nickel and dime looks with one less linebacker on the field in order to account for speed-based, versatile offenses. But how do you stay ahead of the curve, and what's next? That's what we'll be taking a look at in today's video, guys. So if you're new around here, if you're not yet subscribed and enjoy this sort of content, make sure you leave a like and hit that big red button. We want to build the biggest base of Philadelphia sports fans possible, and we need your help to do it. And don't forget, you can get daily content from myself and all of our writers at phillysportsnetwork.com. Eagles assistant coaches met with the media on Monday, and there's one very interesting tidbit to come out of those conversations. According to Mike Tanier, Eagles quarterback coach Press Taylor said that the next big offensive trend might be two guys who can throw the ball on the field at the same time. And he may well be onto something. There's one team that springs to mind instantly, and that's the New Orleans Saints, who used 28-year-old Taysom Hill as a player that does it all. Hill was snatched off waivers 2 seasons ago and has been used at just about every position, becoming a key part of the Saints offense, even with a future Hall of Famer in Drew Brees in their midst. Hill rushed for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2018, largely on wildcat plays, fake punts, sweeps, and even the odd quarterback sneak and option dash. He attempted 7 passes, completing 3, but also caught 3 more and played a pivotal role on special teams. Tampa Bay Bucks GM Jason Licht had this to say about the new emerging prototype. If you can find a backup quarterback who can play on a lot of your special teams units and then come in and play a role on offense, you're utilizing 46 guys on your roster on game day. It's something that's talked about a lot. It's finding a guy that's the tough part. The Saints aren't the only team to do it though. Lamar Jackson was used in a very similar vein before eventually taking over the starting role in Baltimore, and they drafted Trace McSorley, who could pick up where backoff Jackson left off. Meanwhile, Jason Licht and Tampa Bay took a flyer on undrafted free agent Nick Fitzgerald, while the Chargers snatched North Dakota State's Easton Stick away from the Eagles in the heart of the 5th round. It's the Eagles who may be already one step ahead of the curve, and we can look at this through a few different lenses. Firstly, this isn't new. Just look at Trey Burton, the former Eagles tight end quarterback during his time at Florida, and did so very successfully. That would ultimately lend itself very nicely to what is now known as one of the most iconic plays in NFL history, the Philly Special. Press Taylor, the man who just yesterday told reporters that he could see this trend continuing, not only works with Wentz, Sudfeld, Kessler and Thorson, but will be very aware of the talent surrounding them. And among those players lie 2 quarterback to wide receiver converts, with the first being Greg Ward Jr. At the University of Houston, Ward threw for 8,704 yards and 52 touchdowns in just 49 games. Add to that is 2,381 rushing yards and 39 touchdowns on the ground, and you start to see where I'm going with this. This is technically his 3rd stint with the Eagles, a team he now knows very well. He originally transitioned to wide receiver upon signing an undrafted free agent deal and can run a 4.5 40-yard dash time. He's an impressive athlete who must not be overlooked, and over 2 preseasons with the Eagles, he caught 13 passes for 92 yards, developing as a route runner in the process. That was further backed up by his tenure in the Alliance of American Football, where he didn't necessarily blow the league up during his time with the San Antonio Commanders, but he did record 22 catches for 214 yards and, most importantly, showcased an ability as a returner, bringing back 9 punts for 135 yards, leading the league with an average of 15 yards per return. Versatility. Better yet, he's just 23 years old. Ward is still extremely young and could be a viable option to compete for a spot lower down the roster. Given the Eagles already liked what they saw, who's to say that the 3rd time round he won't be wanting to try something different? It's not as if the mountains got any easier to climb, the depth is stickier than ever, the position more lethal than ever. But if Ward Jr. can tap into his quarterbacking background, who's to say he can't sneak on as a true gadget player? And he's not alone. Braxton Miller is another name who is consistently on the lips of Eagles coaches, and with good reason. Having last played for the Texans in 2017, where he caught 19 passes for 162 yards and a touchdown in 11 games, Miller spent all of the 2018 season on the Eagles practice squad before signing a futures deal in January. While again, it's clear the Birds obviously like what Miller brings to the table, it's not out of the equation to imagine a new role. If not for injury, the former two-time Big Ten Player of the Year may well have declared as a quarterback. Miller threw for 1,159 yards and 13 scores in his first season as an Ohio State Buckeye, and also led the team in rushing yards with 715 in the process. He then earned strong praise from Urban Meyer, who was his head coach at the time. Braxton Miller is the most dynamic player I've ever coached, said Meyer. I've had first rounders all over the place, but Braxton is strong, he's 215 now, and his acceleration is just off the charts. He has a degree of humility you almost never see in quarterbacks at top 10 programs. In his sophomore year, Miller broke out with 2,000 passing yards and over 1,200 rushing yards, a franchise record for an Ohio State quarterback to go with 13 rushing scores. A torn labrum suffered in a non-contact drill forced him to miss the entire 2014 season and eventually make the switch to wide receiver, where his unconventional path to the NFL led him to Philadelphia. Given his athletic ability along with that of Greg Ward Jr.'s, is it really that far-fetched to imagine that one of, if not both players, can carve out a Taysom Hill-like role? We know that Doug Peterson is one of the most forward-thinking coaches in this league, as evidenced by his creative offense. We know that Howie Roseman is one of the most forward-thinking GMs in the league, and if you put two and two together, creating matchup nightmares just sounds a bit too obvious. The Eagles' red zone offense is likely poised to be lethal. Jordan Howard scored more touchdowns than almost the entire Eagles backfield combined last year, and when you factor in the partnership of #Goddard, Alshon Jeffrey, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, what you have is an absolute behemoth of an offense. But what if, instead of Jordan Howard, Greg Ward Jr. ran a sweep before dumping the ball over the top to Goddard? What if those wildcat plays made so exotic by the Saints slowly crept their way into the playbook? As every NFL team looks for the next bubble, the next big window to gain a competitive advantage, the Eagles already have two players who fit the mold of a trend spreading across the league like wildfire. And if there's ever a coach gutsy enough to try and make it work, it's Doug Peterson. But let me know what you think, guys. Could you see the Eagles sprinkling in some of these plays? Could we see Philadelphia run with a couple of quarterback-worthy players on the field at the same time? Or is this just a little bit too far-fetched for now? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. From myself, Liam Jenkins, you can follow me at Liam Jenkins PSN. I'll see you next time.